It just happens that Oakland was suffering for a number of years. There was a perception that the city government had failed. There had been the fire in Oakland Hills, 2,700 homes had burnt to the ground. There was the earthquake in '89, and many of the buildings downtown hadn't been fixed. The recession, the downtown had been in many ways abandoned for decades. The exodus in the 60s and 70s had continued in the 80s, and the poverty rate was over 50% in the downtown census tract. So that was the environment, and there was a desire, a pent-up, let's get something done. And I decided to run for mayor. I ran against 11 other candidates. I got 59% of the vote. Now that, I think I was a pretty clever campaigner, but there was a pent-up, can somebody save us? Let's get something done. So that was there. And so I decided I wanted to bring 10,000 people downtown because there weren't any good restaurants. There wasn't much going on, and I happened to live downtown. So I wanted to create that, some vitality. And so that's what I said, 10,000 people. And I just said it. It wasn't a commission. We didn't have a big planning process. We didn't do an EIR. I just said 10,000 people downtown. And I coined it elegant density. And that's density in downtown Oakland. That was the way I kind of framed it. Now, but that's difficult. Okay, so, but it was an initiative that I had, and I had been thinking about this for since the 70s. In 1978, I wrote with a couple of staff guys, but we literally wrote it and we finished it at the El Adobe restaurant one night over margaritas, the urban strategy for California, which emphasized infill and then the closer in cities, and only when those two zones had been filled, go out beyond. Well, there's a lot of people didn't follow it, but there it was. But I followed it 30 years later when I became mayor of Oakland. Now, I want to give you some of the bite here, because there's more here. The city manager wanted to put a baseball stadium where Forest City now has 600 units, okay? I had to take action. So I fired the city manager, the deputy city manager, the redevelopment director, the economic development director, and the planning director, and our negotiator for downtown real estate. So that was it. And that hadn't happened before. And I wanted to say, we got to have development, let's go. Now, Forest City got delayed for a couple of years. First we talked about the ballpark. Then we talk about Sun Microsystems going to put in their big office downtown, which for Oakland is, a miracle. But that never happened. And then they started negotiating, and, we gave them a little subsidy, and you can argue about how much it is and what have you. But that took years. And it's so damn complicated to figure out these projects with tax credits and tax increment, whatever the hell. Nobody understands what that means except a couple of staffers. I didn't understand what the hell it was. But I only had one idea. I live downtown. There are no, Starbucks closes on the weekends. I mean, come on. We can't live on Rite Aid and Walgreens, which are subsidized by Medi-Cal and Medicare. I mean, if we had a Medi-Cal Medicare for coffee, we'd have a lot more Starbucks, but we don't. And I mean, the whole downtown is senior housing, subsidized housing, parole, halfway houses, substance abuse clinics. I mean, that's the urban ecology. And if you want to reverse it, it takes force of will and also the external surroundings. So we finally got Forest City going. We missed the market a little bit, so they're still struggling. But we have art galleries. We got a beautiful Fox Theater, $90 million to make that thing better than Grauman's Chinese. It's a fabulous Art Deco theater. And I created the Oakland School for the Arts. When I say I created, I actually wrote the charter, went to this board, which hates charters, the school board, and we got it in. It's now in its 8th year. We got kids going to Vassar and UCLA Film School. It's a great school. People are trying to get in from all over suburbs and the city. So we really built something, but there's a lot of resistance. Even in the EIR, under CEQA, that Reagan statute that we're still living with. Anyway, they had to do this EIR. They had to do an EIR, and You don't understand. It isn't just about greenhouse gases, which is a new thing you have to deal with. It isn't just about air pollution. It's not just about traffic. It's not just about noise. It's also about something called historic resources. So what's the historic resource on top of the Forest City development? Well, they said there was a Chinatown here, and we better go check the artifacts. So they had to hire this archaeologist, and I pay him $400 an hour. He sat there watching people dig little things up. And so they dig all this crap up, and I learned something because I actually got the booklet, which was the mitigation. You take all this junk and you put it in a warehouse, then you publish a little book. And Forest City tells me it costs them $1 million. I don't know if it costs that much, but it costs more than it should.
Of course it cost us $1 million.
Well, it costs a lot of It's part of the barrier. Okay, what'd they find? Well, we found in 1860 or 1870, they weren't Chinese, they were Irish. They were Irish. Secondly, there was no garbage company, so the deal was you just bury stuff, dig a hole and bury it. So poor Forest City had to dig up all that junk and their old shoes and broken pottery and just junk, okay? And that's all cataloged. It's a beautiful catalog as part of the environmental impact mitigation of historic resources. I mean, if we'd never done it, we would have, hallelujah, would have went up faster, they would have had more tenants in, the market wouldn't have, this conclusion, it is tough. You have to be really strong-willed, and since I've left, the inertia's coming back, and they've got all sorts of things. They want to achieve all these goals. When I was there, I approved of every development project. I wanted the minimum of regulation. I never saw an EIR I liked. Even when we did them, they had no value, and we just charged ahead. And I became this kind of right-wing bad guy, but I didn't move at all. I'm just kind of standing in the middle, and then we have all this resistance. So, conclusion, what we need to do, it's not that easy to get it done. And it takes a lot of support, and I think the business is going to be the leader, because where the bottom line dictates it, you can move forward. But when you get into the government, you get the pulling and the hauling, it does become difficult. And I could tell when I was governor, all the conservation standards, the solar tax credit, all that went out the window. We had building appliance standards, and then the Reagan administration preempted them with a zero standard, a no standard standard. And so we pushed forward, then they threw it all out, but then it comes back. And government is like that. You go down the road, then you back off, then you go again. But we're still doing the same stuff. Efficiency, alternative fuels, focusing on the urban areas. As Attorney General, I've sued San Bernardino and Stockton and Pleasanton to get more urban infill. Now I realize urban infill is a problem. And I'll just stop here by saying what the difference is. If you go downtown, you have a lot of smart people living there. And smart people don't like smart growth because they're there. They don't want anybody else. Now, if you go out to the suburbs, out to the Salton Sea or east of Indio, you don't have any. There's sagebrush and tortoises or something, and they can become a problem too. But in general, if you can just find cows, dumb cows, you can get them out of the way. They're much easier than the smart people. So that's the trouble. Smart people oppose smart growth. Dumb cows are very helpful in facilitating dumb growth. And there is the problem of the politics of efficiency and sustainability. But we continue, and we continue down the path, and we're making progress. But it isn't as fast as we think or we would like.